So this is about a Montgomery County psychiatrist from Montgomery County, Pennsylvania that got caught running a pill mill. Now, what I want to point out here is this is not unheard of. When I worked at Pendel Mental Health, there was a doctor there. She no longer works there. She was not well. She didn't look like she was a well person anyway, so she's probably not even with us anymore, but I'm still not going to name her just in case, because psychiatrists, okay, it was a woman of East Indian descent, an older woman that was a psychiatrist, and literally, like, a friend of mine there, like, one of the psychiatrists and I were friendly, because he and I were both interested in anti-aging medicine and things of that nature. And one of the things that he explained to me was literally 90% of this woman's clients had ADHD, and they were all on amphetamines, okay? Which doesn't, as he put it, it doesn't even make statistical sense that this many people could have been diagnosed with ADHD. It just doesn't make sense. And he was not a big believer in overprescribing because it's dangerous. It's dangerous to give people a lot of medicines that don't really do much. And one of his biggest issues as a psychiatrist that didn't prescribe a lot of medications was trying to explain to people, you can look for a magical pill, but it's not going to get you anywhere. You have to learn to deal with these issues on your own, because a lot of the times the medications do nothing or make symptoms worse or create new symptoms. And it was very frustrating to him to have to try and explain that to people. But a Montgomery County psychiatrist was charged in U.S. District Court with running a pill mill out of his office in East Norriton and Scranton in Lackawanna. The U.S. Department of Justice announced Friday Spiro Y. Cassis, 66, of Plymouth, was charged with 14 counts of distributing dangerous and addictive opioids. Now, what I want to make sure that people understand, the woman that worked at Pendel Mental Health that I brought up, this obviously is not her, this is a gentleman, but in her case, she herself, as a doctor, was making these choices. Now, were they the correct choices? Probably not. But that's the danger with psychiatry, is they have such a confirmation bias, such a wacky way of looking at the world and diagnosing mental illness, that they have the ability to prescribe dangerous pharmaceuticals. Okay, now, what I'm saying is the woman at Pendel Mental Health was not I don't think she was quote-unquote irresponsibly prescribing medication, because she probably really believed that the people did have ADHD. And she probably really did believe that giving them the amphetamines would help them. Okay? However, what you need to understand with amphetamines is amphetamines have a whole slew of symptoms that they cause, including restlessness, sleeplessness, issues with learning, issues with settling down, dysthymia when you try to get off them, all sorts of crazy stuff. And it's dangerous to be put on something like that for long periods of time. So most of the prescriptions contained, how you would prescribe oxycodone and methadone. Well, methadone I might be able to see if you have heroin addicts, but this guy's a psychiatrist. Where you're getting off prescribing oxycodone as a psychiatrist, that's a red flag right there. That's probably how they caught him. Okay. You can read this on your own if you want, but my point is, this happens more often than people might want to believe. And as I said, in the case with the woman at Pendel Mental Health, she was most likely practicing medicine the way it's supposed to be practiced. Psychiatric medicine, that is. Okay? Which, it didn't make sense. Like the other psychiatrist had explained to me, it just didn't make any sense from any standpoint. So this is the Citizens Commission on Human Rights, or Citizens Commission on Human Rights, and this is their database of crimes against humanity being perpetrated by psychiatrists, therapists, etc. So Universal Health Services, first trial schedule, blah blah blah, Cumberland Hospital. Okay, so this is showing everything. This is how to get an attorney. So here you go. So, as a non-profit public organization dedicated to investigating and exposing violations, Human Rights CCHR is regularly and continuously contacted by victims of psychiatric abuse, yada yada yada. So, if you want information on these things, maybe you should take a look. Okay, so articles and publications. These are different articles about people. Kids Peace, non-profit, but still not safe. See? This is about a psychotherapist, sexual exploitation. A survivor takes her case to court. You can read these on your own. It's worth reading. This is my playlist, Lenape Valley Needs to Be Shut Down, and I strongly advise people to watch as many of these videos as they can. It outlines my issues with Lenape Valley, but what it also does is it shows the level that one agency will go to practice dishonesty and victimization of at least one of their clients, but most likely many more. So you might be asking, how are they going to start rounding people up? Well, if you're a harm to yourself or others based on the opinion of a crisis worker or a doctor or a police officer, apparently, especially probably if Trump gets back in with his view towards gun violence and mental health, okay, if they deem you, if a police officer deems you to be mentally ill or a crisis worker or whoever, you might be locked up, you might be medicated, okay? So oppositional defiant disorder is listed in the DSM-5 under disruptive impulse control conduct disorders. So this is a conduct disorder. Conduct disorders are very, see, this is the thing. In my personal opinion, there are people that simply do not mesh with people, okay? Now, these are personality traits, okay? You will see people with personality traits that make them assholes, in other words. Like, for example, with narcissistic personality disorder, people want to go, everybody that's an asshole is a narcissist. No, they're an asshole. Okay, being an asshole is not a mental illness, it's a personality trait. Different people have different personalities. Some people are assholes. Now, what you have to understand, though, is pretty soon they're going to be able to detain you for being an asshole. Or, in the case of ODD, asking difficult questions they don't want to answer. What do I mean by that? So, the symptoms are going to be often loses their temper, is often touchy or easily annoyed, is often angry and resentful. Now, you get gaslighted for 20-some years, like I was, by the mental health community, mental health industry. You're going to lose your temper pretty quick. You're going to get easily annoyed pretty quick, and you're going to get angry and resentful pretty often. Okay, now this is for children. Okay, so keep in mind that ODD only applies to children. So often argues with authority figures, or for children and, I guess now it is applied to adults, or for children and adolescents with adults. Often active, now keep that in mind, often argues with authority figures or for children and adolescents with adults. This is how people in a place of authority can say that this person is mentally ill when this person is simply argumentative because they're not receiving the proper care or what have you. Often actively defies or refuses to comply with requests from authority figures. Yes, because they could be asking the individual to do things that are not in that individual's best interests. Often deliberately annoys others. That could be as easy as, they disagree with other people. Often blames others for their mistakes or behaviors. Now that would be, they keep saying that their psychiatrist or their therapist or the person that's holding them down and suffocating them at the mental institution or the prison, they blame them for their touchiness or the gaslighting. They're blaming the people gaslighting them for when they lose their temper. So this is a perfect diagnosis to protect an abusive system. And it's the perfect diagnosis to scoop people up and disappear them. So mood disorder NOS, one of the problems is in order to get paid, a mental health practitioner has to treat you for something, okay? So mood disorder is one of the most popular diagnoses in the mental health field is mood disorder NOS, okay? So let's get into what a mood disorder is. A mood disorder, also known as affective disorder, is any of a group of conditions of mental and behavioral disorders where a disturbance in the person's mood is the main underlying feature. The classification is in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual and International Classification of Diseases. Its specialty is psychiatry. Types of mood disorders include bipolar disorder, clickothymia, disruptive mood dysregulation, disruptive mood dysregulation disorder, dysthymia, major depressive disorder, premenstrual dysphoric disorder, seasonal affective disorder. Of course, they don't know what causes these things, so let's keep that in mind. But they're saying, various causes, of course. Mood disorders fall into 7 groups, including abnormally elevated mood, such as mania or hypomania, depressed mood, of which the best known and most researched is major depressive disorder. Now, this is the thing. A lot of people will be diagnosed with major depressive disorder. I've been diagnosed with major depressive disorder, okay? And the thing is, a lot of the medications have a downing effect on people, okay? Also, life can have a downing effect on people. It doesn't mean that you're mentally ill if you're... See, that's the biggest thing is... Well, I'm going to get into that because I want to concentrate on the way these things will be used as mental health roundup techniques. But you can see there's any number of ways that you can just say somebody has a mood disorder. One of the popular ones, mood disorder NOS, is just mood disorder, not otherwise specified. And what that allows is for the person to bill, but in the future it will allow the person that is having the mood disorder, which is the completely subjective opinion of the diagnosing party, to be scooped up and disappeared. Major depressive disorder, commonly called major depression, unipolar depression, or clinical depression, wherein a person has one or more major depressive episodes. After a single episode, major depressive disorder would be diagnosed. After more than one episode, the diagnosis becomes major depressive disorder. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so individuals with a major depressive episode or major depressive disorder are at an increased risk of suicide. Seeking help and treatment from a health professional dramatically reduces the individual's risk of suicide. Studies have demonstrated that asking if a depressed friend or family member has thought of committing suicide is an effective way of identifying those at risk. Depressive disorder is frequent in primary care and general hospital practice, but is often undetected. Unrecognized depressive disorder may slow recovery and worsen prognosis and physical illness. Atypical depression is characterized by mood reactivity. Okay? Melancholy, is characterized by a loss of pleasure in most or all activities, a failure of reactivity to pleasure, a quality of depressed mood more pronounced than that of grief or loss, a worsening of symptoms in morning hours. Psychotic major depression, or simply psychotic depression, is a term. This is just you're psychotic and you have depression, but people might not know what psychosis is. Delusions and hallucinations. Now, the problem with delusions is one person's delusions might be another person's thoughts and viewpoints. And I'm going to show you that in a second. Catatonic depression is rare and a severe form of major depressive involving disturbances of motor behavior and other symptoms, blah, blah, blah. Catatonic symptoms can also occur in schizophrenia or a manic episode. Postpartum depression, that's, of course, related to pregnancy, so it happens, sets in within 3 months of labor. Now, what you have to understand, this is a mood disorder. Is it a mood disorder? Or is this in relation to something in the environment, such as having a baby and not having a life anymore? Is this a relation to a nutritional deficiency? Is this a relation to hormonal imbalance? Is this all of that? It very well could be, but you're not going to be tested for any of this now, are you? And notice, what do? Boom, right away to the drugs. Premenstrual dysphoric disorder is a severe and disabling form of premenstrual syndrome. Now, there's people that have gotten out of going to prison for murder because of this. Now, what's humorous about that? Premenstrual dysphoric disorder, that would most likely have to do with hormonal dysregulation. And should the person be seeing a psychiatrist and being put on hormone dysregulating substances, or should they be going to an endocrinologist? I mean, come on. Seasonal affective disorder is also known as winter depression or winter blues. Dysthymia is a condition related to unipolar depression where the same physical and cognitive problems are evident, but they are not as severe and tend to last longer. The treatment of dysthymia is largely the same as for major depression, including antidepressant medications and psychotherapy. Double depression. Ooh, you're doubly depressed. I double dog dare you to be double depressioned. Okay, can be defined as a fairly depressed mood that lasts for at least 2 years and is punctuated by periods of major depression. Unspecified depressive disorder. Okay, this is unspecified depressive disorder. So the person's just depressed. Okay. So the symptoms that are characteristic of depressive disorders can cause significant impairment to functioning. Depressive personality disorder is a controversial psychiatric diagnosis that denotes a personality disorder with depressive features. Originally included, now, I actually tend to agree that that's a real deal, okay? I think there are people with personalities that are just a little bit down all the time. Okay? Depressive personality disorder is currently described in Appendix B in the DSM-4 as worthy blah blah blah. So recently it has been reconsidered for reinstatement as a diagnosis. Okay, so this is a personality disorder with depressive features originally included in DSM-2. Recurrent brief depression. Distinguished from major depressive disorder primarily by differences in duration. People with recurrent brief depression have depressive episodes about once per month with individual episodes lasting bipolar disorders, yada yada, different types of bipolar disorder. Substance-induced mood disorders, alcohol-induced mood disorders, benzodiazepine-induced mood disorders. Now remember, benzodiazepine-induced mood disorders, benzodiazepines are given to people as psychiatric medications to treat anxiety, depression, paranoia, yada 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 yada. Okay? And what this does is, so what happens is the tolerance develops and you need more and more of these, and then what you have to do, so the benzodiazepines do not prevent the development of depression and can exacerbate pre-existing depression. Okay? Depression kind of goes along with pretty much every other mental health concern. Okay, it's very rare that you'll find somebody that's severely mentally wacky that doesn't have depression. Long-term use of benzodiazepines may have a similar effect on the brain as long-term use of alcohol. As with alcohol, the effects of benzodiazepines on neurochemistry, such as decreased levels of serotonin and norepinephrine, are believed to be responsible for increased depression. Additionally, benzodiazepines can indirectly worsen mood by worsening sleep. Like alcohol, benzodiazepines can put people to sleep, but while asleep, they disrupt the sleep architecture, decreasing sleep time, delaying the time of REM. Okay, and this is the thing. Melatonin, and I'm actually happy to say I do see physicians, nurses, and even psychiatrists recommending high-dose melatonin in place of tranquilizers, okay, or benzodiazepines and antihistamines like Vistarol and things like that. Mood disorders due to another medical condition. But what I'm saying is these are all going to be excuses to scoop people up and treat them because they're disruptive to society. So when we come back, I'm going to be continuing with this theme about, I'm going to go on with schizoaffective disorder, cycloid psychosis. So we're going to talk about cycloid psychosis. Non-adherence as a mental illness, and things of that nature that are going to be used, in my opinion, most likely to scoop people up, disappear them, and treat them for the political expedience of the people in charge. And that's all for this video.